Hey guys, this is attorney Mark J. Victor with the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm. And today I want to tell you about something very exciting going on. I think if you, like me, are getting cranky about how things are going in the world, are you frustrated with the same old thing from the Republicans and from the Democrats? Year after year, they always talk a big game and nothing gets done. Are you frustrated with that? Are you ready for something new? Do you want real solutions to the problems that we have, that we're facing right now and that we're likely to face in the future? If you are, then I have some good news for you. There's a new movement getting ready to start, and you already agree with it, whether you realize it or not. You're going to love it the second I tell you about it. It's called the Live and Let Live movement. Live and let live. Does this make sense to you? I sure hope it does. Makes a lot of sense to me. Imagine if everybody just took the attitude of, you know what? I'm a live and let live type of person. Basically, look, you decide what makes you happy and how to pursue your happiness. Live your life however you like. If you're a competent adult, you should be in charge of yourself. Do whatever you want with your body, your property, your money, your time, but with one sort of exception. One exception to that rule. You got to allow other people to live the same way. You shouldn't interfere with them. So you might be saying to yourself right now, okay, live and let live, it sounds great, but what does it actually mean? Well, let me put a finer tip on it. To live and let live means to basically leave other people alone. Doesn't that make sense? What does it mean to leave other people alone? Don't be an aggressor. What's an aggressor? Don't hit other people over the head. Can we agree on that? Remember the rules that you were taught when you went to kindergarten? Don't hit the other kids. Keep your hands to yourself. Remember that one? And don't take the other kids' toys without their permission. Do you think you can handle that? And by the way, those were great rules in kindergarten, weren't they? Well, there's still good rules today. I can't think of any reason we should change those rules. Well, if you agree with those rules, then you're going to love live and let live, because live and let live has a live and let live principle. That's what live and let live is about. There's a principle, and that's what's so different between live and let live and Republicans and Democrats. Who knows what the principles are underlying what the Republicans say or what the Democrats say, but the principle underlying what the live and let livers say is the live and let live principle. Don't be an aggressor. Don't initiate force, as I just said. Don't initiate force against another person or their property. Don't initiate fraud. Don't be involved in fraud. Don't defraud anybody. Can you live with that one? Don't coerce anybody. And don't put anyone else at substantial risks of being injured either, right? You can't drive drunk down the road. This endangers other people. You can't recklessly shoot your firearm up into the air to celebrate New Year's or something, because this endangers other people. You haven't actually initiated force yet, but creating a substantial risk of initiating force also violates the live and let live rule. So if you think you can refrain from initiating force, fraud, coercion, or creating substantial risks, if you think that should be a right rule, then you're a live and let liver. Everything else you get to do, no problem. That's the legal side. The legal side is don't violate the live and let live principle, what I just explained. If you cannot violate that, you should be allowed to do whatever you want with your body, property, money, and time. Now, there are more things to say, right? Because I just spoke about the legal world. There's also a moral world out there as well. The moral world has nothing to do with the law, but morality is still important. And we have some things to say in the Live and Let Live movement about morality. We call them the aspirational values. That means we're not trying to change the law to import our aspirational values into the law. In fact, we would oppose that. Let me tell you what the aspirational values are of the Live and Let Live movement, and I'm sure you're going to like them. Tolerance. We should be tolerant of other people and how they live, legally tolerant at least. Open-mindedness. Can you live with open-mindedness? Voluntary kindness, not forced kindness, but we want to get people to aspire to voluntarily be kind to other people. And honesty and justice, civility. We should be able to agree to disagree. Let's be civilized with each other. Building high levels of trust with other human beings. This is very, very important. I already know this about you, right? To the extent you have high levels of trust with other people, those are good relationships you have. Those are the ones you value. To the extent you have low trust with other people, these are your bad relationships. We want to encourage people to aspire to build high levels of trust. All these things are to get us to increasing human happiness and decreasing human suffering. Those are the aspirational values, and they're all in the moral realm. So what that means is, if you propose changing the law that says everybody should be open-minded or voluntarily kind or even civilized, we would oppose that. You have every right to be closed-minded and intolerant and uncivilized. As long as you don't violate the live and let live principle, then you should be left alone. Live however you like. Don't violate the live and let live principle. That's the only rule that's in the law. But we want you to aspire to these aspirational values. People need to understand there's an important difference. If you want a free society and a free world and you want to increase human happiness and decrease human suffering, you must understand the difference between the legal world and the moral world. Very, very important. Now, something else critically important, if you're with me so far, and if this is making sense to you, let me tell you something else. This live and let live principle I described, the legal world, it applies to everybody. Don't care what color your skin is. Don't care what your ethnic background is. Don't care whether you're rich or poor or where you were born, what country you came from, what language you speak, what holidays you celebrate. It applies equally to everyone. Can you get your mind around that? Look, we're all human beings. We're all brothers and sisters on the planet. The same rule should apply to everyone equally. Very importantly, it still applies, even if people get together and form a group. Why on earth would we want a group, would we let a group violate the live and let live rule? Do we really want groups to be able to initiate force, fraud, coercion, or put other people at substantial risks? No. So even if you form a group, it still applies. And even if it's a big group, or even if it's a corporation, corporations don't get any special passes. Corporations can do whatever they want, like people, but they don't get to violate the live and let live rule. That means they don't get to initiate force, fraud, or coercion against anybody or create substantial risks towards others. If they do those things, then they violate the rule, and the law should get involved. And also, the biggest group of all, the government. It should apply to the government as well. Why on earth would we ever want our government, the biggest group that we form as people? They're our agents. They work for us. Why would we want the government initiating force, fraud, coercion, or putting us at any substantial risks? So the live and let live principle, if you buy it, if you believe it, and I hope you do because it makes sense, it should appeal to the inner humanity of all of us. All reasonable people should agree with the live and let live principle. At the end of the day, imagine what it says to not agree with the live and let live principle. It means you actually think it's okay to initiate force or fraud or coercion or put other people at substantial risks of such things. This is the definition of being unreasonable, isn't it? Reason is a tool that we use. It's communication, it's conversation. It's the tool we should use to convince other people, not force. Force is the tools of thugs. Even the government, groups, corporations, all people should be subject to the live and let live rule. This is the underlying principle that all our laws should be calibrated to be consistent with. So anyways, this is just a short overview of what the live and let live movement is about. And by the way, this is a global movement. This isn't a movement just in your town or just in your country. This is a movement that the entire world is getting behind. And if you're interested, there's so much more information. Just go to the website, liveandletlive.org. Can you remember liveandletlive.org? Go to the website and check it out. There's a few videos there. First, there's a 1-minute video. Then there's another 1-minute video. And after that, there's an 8-minute video that really puts the meat on the bones and explains what this movement is about. The reasonable people of the world need to get together and say enough is enough with the craziness that's going on out in the world. We need to take charge of things right now and organize the world around this principle, because Live and Let Live, it's the world's only real peace movement. It's the only global peace movement going on in the world right now. And this is an urgent matter. You know why? Because technology is such that smaller and smaller groups of people can do larger and larger amounts of harm. It's really urgent that we get the world to calibrate its laws around the Live and Let Live principle so we can work together and we can cooperate and we can ferment peace with our fellow brothers and sisters around the world. We're getting ready to face lots of threats that our species has never faced before. It's going to be easy soon for people to synthetically make viruses and bacteria, especially viruses, and spread pandemics around the world. Do we want this? These are substantial risks that we need to deal with. We've got nuclear weapons all over the world right now. We've got artificial intelligence getting ready to break through at some point that could be recklessly developed right now. It's important that the reasonable people of the world urgently get together and coalesce around the Live and Let Live principle. This is a phrase that people understand already around the world. We have groups and chapters in many different countries already around the world. This movement is going to be kicked off in March of 2023. Yeah, you're hearing about it early. You have an opportunity to get in and be one of the organizers right now. If you're interested in being part of the solution to the major problems we have right now in the world, this is the most important movement going on in the world right now. If you've had enough of all of the craziness where everybody's trying to impose their particular morality on everybody else because they're confused about what's the moral world and what's the legal world, and you want a solution, I'm inviting you right now to go to liveandletlive.org. See what's said there. Look at the videos. Look at some of the writings. There's a book that will be available soon. There's more and more videos that are being put up all the time. Join the movement. Get involved. Maybe start a chapter where you are. You don't have to do a lot right now. Maybe host a meeting once a month. Let's talk about what Live and Let Live means. We're not trying to push people into big government or small government or no government, whatever you like. The only thing we say about government is don't violate the rule. Look, whether you like capitalism or whether you like socialism, no problem. Live however you like. Just don't violate the rule. So capitalism that doesn't violate the rule, like free market capitalism, no problem. Crony capitalism that violates the rule, where people give money to politicians and the government so they pass laws and rules that benefit one company over another or give some advantage to certain groups and disadvantage other groups by force, this violates the rule. So crony capitalism violates the rule. Same types of things can be said for socialism. You want to get together and pool your resources in a communal kind of a way, pay for things, voluntary socialism, no problem. Involuntary socialism, where you're dragging people in to the economic system that they don't want to be dragged into. Look, nobody gets to force anybody to do anything. The only requirement that the law ought to impose on people is that you don't get to violate the Live and Let Live principle. And this is whether you agree to it or not, right? We don't tell the thief, look, you have to agree to the rule that you don't get to steal things. We don't care that the thief doesn't agree to the rule. If you steal things, we're going to give you a scrupulously fair trial. And if you're found to have violated the rule, because theft violates the rule, right? This is an initiation of force to property. Then we can do things to you, right? We can give you a sanction. So the only thing we're trying to impose on people, the only thing we're saying that ought to be imposed on people through the law is the Live and Let Live principle. Don't initiate force, fraud, coercion, or get engaged in substantial risks of these things to other people. Sure, I understand there can be hard questions to figure out what's a substantial risk. I get that, no problem. I'm not saying everything is going to be a utopia or everything is super simple. I get it. Communities are going to have to make decisions. But don't we want a world where we're actually debating and arguing about the proper implementation of the Live and Let Live principle? We have to agree on a basic fundamental principle if we're ever going to achieve a free world in a peaceful world. And by the way, whether you like it or not, your community, That's the world right now. Technology is such that advocating for a free society is no longer enough. We need to advocate for a free world. That's your community. Whether you like the idea of moving to sort of this global concept or not, that's the world we're in. People aren't going to travel less internationally. We've got multinational corporations. Look, what just happened with the coronavirus happened in China. We don't know exactly what happened there yet. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it someday. But the point is, somebody in China did something that created a substantial risk and turned into a real threat of force to everybody all over the world. Somebody created a threat that materialized and trespassed on people all over the world. That's our community right now, whether we like it or not. And it's okay, because most people, or I would say it like this, all reasonable people agree with what I just laid out in this short video. All reasonable people will agree that initiating force, fraud, and coercion is the wrong thing to do. So anyways, if this sounds like it might be the right thing for you, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear from you. Again, my name is Mark Victor. I am with the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm. We are a group of attorneys who are all freedom activists. Everybody at the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm has already signed the Live and Let Live pledge, which basically says you understand and agree with the Live and Let Live principle and the aspirational values. I hope they make sense to you too. That's what our law firm is about. And so I hope you'll check out liveandletlive.org. If you agree or disagree, love to hear from you. If you bring it civilized and respectful, you'll get exactly the same back from me. I'd love to hear your critiques. I'd love to hear what you agree with. Again, Mark, M-A-R-C, @attorneysforfreedom.com. Thanks for listening.